Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So today we are going to be covering Asia. In my last video I covered Europe and I know a lot of you guys have been struggling in Europe, but today I thought I would go over Asia because Asia, it is the biggest continent in the world and some people do struggle with it. So I'm going to give you some top tips for guessing in Asia, similar to the Europe video. So here we go. Top tip number 1, and that is to know which countries are covered in Asia, because not all of them are. So today I'm going to show you which countries are actually covered and which ones you can expect to be seeing on the Asia map in Geoguessr. Alright, so I've got the yellow man out from Google. He's hovering about here. So as you can see, just by looking at Asia, not a lot of it's covered. So these are the countries that are covered in the Asia map. So you've got the Asian part of Turkey, Israel and Jordan, the UAE, Kyrgyzstan, Asian part of Russia, Mongolia, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Macau, Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand and Laos, also Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. So those are your countries that are covered in the Asia map on Geoguessr. Top tip number 2. Top tip number 2 is knowing distinguishable countries. In Asia, there are quite a few countries that are quite distinguishable due to actually the Google car. In Google Street View, Google don't always use the same car, and Asia has quite a few distinguishable countries and you can distinguish these by their Google car. So this car that I'm showing you just now is the Mongolian car. So Mongolia has 2 Google cars. This is one of them. So you have the bars with the filled in black in the middle, and you have the red wing mirrors and the white outside of the car. This is the other Google car in Mongolia that you are likely to see. So this also has the bars that are filled in with black, but it also has this kind of padding on the outside. I like to think of it as a mattress, but other people have told me it's not a mattress. It also has this little thing at the front which we call a snorkel. I don't think it's actually used as a snorkel, seeing as Mongolia is landlocked, but anyway, this is what the other Mongolian Google car looks like. So another very distinguishable car is Bangladesh. So Bangladesh also has 2 versions of the Google Street View car. One is more distinctive than the other one. This is the less distinguishable one, so it has a little bit of white on the back of the car, and this is the more distinguishable car in Bangladesh. So you have the bars and you have the red wing mirrors, and you also have a metal grille on the front. So this is very, very distinguishable for Bangladesh. You won't see this car anywhere else in the world. So another Google car that is pretty distinctive is Kyrgyzstan. So Kyrgyzstan has this Google car. So as you can see, it does have bars. The bars are not filled in on the top, and they also have wing mirrors, but they are black wing mirrors and they're a little bit more squarish than the Mongolian ones. So this is the last Google car that is distinguishable to Asia, and it is in Laos. So Laos does have very small amounts of coverage in its major cities. However, this distinguishable car is only present in its cities other than Vientiane, which is the capital. So Vientiane doesn't have a car with bars, but the rest of the cities do. And this is in Savannakhet. I hope I'm saying that right. But also another thing that's distinguishable is the yellow plates, but we'll come on to that later. Top tip number 3. So top tip number 3 is actually knowing which cars drive on the left and the right. So as we know, most of the world drives on the right hand side. Some countries do drive on the left hand side in Asia, and these countries are Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Bangladesh, Japan, Hong Kong, Macau, Singapore and Sri Lanka. So if you do see cars driving on the left hand side, you know you're in one of these countries. Top tip number 4. So I see quite a few people getting Japan, Taiwan and South Korea mixed up. This is probably due to the fact that they're all quite close to each other, similar buildings, similar landscapes, so I think it all comes down to that. But here are some top tips to distinguish those 3 countries in particular. Okay, so one of the main things about Japan is that Japan has what we call a low cam. So this means that the camera is very, very close to the roof of the car, meaning that it appears a lot lower than your average Google car. Your you're pretty much on eye level with a pedestrian, say, if they were to walk down this street. A lot of the time you can see the back of the car visible from the camera. This makes Japan incredibly distinctive from all the other countries in Asia. So in terms of landscape, Taiwan is actually quite similar to Japan. You do sometimes get the low camera that I was talking to you about in Japan in Taiwan, but it's quite rare to see. But one thing that you can distinguish Japan from Taiwan is, one, the side of the road you drive on, so Taiwan Drive on the right hand side, and two, it is this. The thing about these black and yellow diagonal stripes is that they go from this part of the pole all the way down to the bottom. And now it's very important that they go all the way down to the bottom, because in South Korea you get black and yellow diagonal stripes, but they only go to a certain point on the pole, so they don't go all the way down. So this is very important because these two things are distinguishable to these countries, but sometimes if you can mix them up, this can lose you really, really big points. So moving on to South Korea, another thing that's distinguishable about South Korea is the time of year that the coverage was taken. So in South Korea, a lot of Google Street View coverage was taken in the winter time. So a lot of the time you will see a lot of trees that are pretty much dead, you know, not a lot of leaves on them, and it looks quite dull and grey. This isn't because Korea is a dull and grey place, absolutely not. It's just because the time of year doesn't do it the best of favours. So if you're like me, languages is quite hard for you, and I find it really, really hard to distinguish between certain languages in the world, and one of them is Japanese and Korean. I always used to struggle with determining which is Japanese and which is Korean, but I was told that a good way to spot Korean is that Korea has a lot of circles in their language, in the symbols that they use. So as you can see on this sign, there's a lot more rounded symbols on the sign, and this helps me distinguish Korean to Japanese, because Japanese uses a lot more straight lines rather than circles in their language. Top tip number 5. So license plates. License plates in Asia are very diverse and can vary quite a lot. I'm going to show you a few plates that hopefully you can distinguish between when you're guessing in Asia. I see a lot of people struggling between guessing in Israel and Jordan. You know, they're bordering countries, they have very similar landscapes and stuff. But one thing about Israel that's quite distinctive from Jordan is its license plate. So Israel uses yellow license plates on the front and the back, very, very similar to the Netherlands in Europe. Another distinguishable one is Laos. So Laos also uses yellow license plates. Laos drives on the right, as I mentioned earlier. This is in Vientiane, so we don't have the bars, but Laos everywhere uses yellow license plates. So the other two countries that I see a lot of people struggle in is Malaysia and Indonesia. Again, these countries have very, very similar landscapes. One thing that we can distinguish these two countries with is their license plates. They both have black license plates with white writing on them. So this is a Malaysian plate. So as you can see on the license plate, we actually have two blurs. So we have a short one on the left hand side, a slightly bigger one on the right hand side. So Malaysia uses two sets of white writing, and this is a Indonesian plate. So as you can see, it's black. It also has white blurs, but there are 3 white blurs this time. So you've got one on the left, quite a small one on the left, you've got a fairly bigger blur on the middle, and then you've got a smaller blur on the right. So Indonesia uses 3 white blurs and Malaysia uses 2. So hopefully that helps you, and I'll put a comparison on the screen right now. Okay, so those were some of my top tips for guessing in Asia. I couldn't cover everything because otherwise we would be here all day. To be honest, I always think that the best way to get better at Geoguessr is practice. Asia is one of the biggest continents. It's pretty hard to guess in, but hopefully I helped you out there with some good tips that can help you distinguish some of the countries at least. If you'd like more of these tips, do let me know in the comments down below. I will be doing a bollard video for Europe very, very shortly, so watch out for that if you are struggling on your bollards in Europe. But I hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I will see you all in the next video, and if not, I'll see you live on Twitch. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.